believe how close this is? We are in a tie ball game. We went door to door. We went house to house. We made our case for change. We're going to make that case tomorrow. We're not stopping now. Tomorrow we rest, and then we keep fighting through to November. Let's go out there. Let's get it done. Let's change this country.
That's right.
Joining us now, the Democratic candidate in Ohio's 12th district, which NBC News says is too close to call, Danny O'Connor. And Danny, the president, the Republican Party in Ohio, and your opponents are calling you the loser this morning. To that, you say what?
I say that, we're excited to continue to have this conversation with voters each day about why we need folks who are going to go to Washington and fight for working people. And this race is too close to call. The margin is 1,700 votes. We have 8,000 votes yet to be counted. And we have an election in November. The fight continues. And, we're going to be out there campaigning today. We're not resting because people are counting on us to get it done for them.
Hey, Danny, Joe Scarborough here. How strange is it that you, in effect, have to run a marathon, all for the glory of running a sprint for a full term? It's got to be kind of unsettling for you, but also kind of confusing for voters.
You know what? It's awesome, I think. I mean, it gives me opportunities to have more conversations with folks about the direction that they want to see our country go in. And when people sit around the kitchen table at night, they're worried about how they're going to pay their mortgage, how they're going to, afford to retire, how they're going to afford these rising costs of health insurance. And these are things that are worth fighting for. To be able to go out and have this conversation like we have been and will continue to do is really just an honor and a privilege.
So you did better than any Democrats done in Ohio 12, and my gosh, well, I guess in your lifetime. But the question is, let's say you come up short 500 to 1,000 votes. The question is, where do you find those votes? What's your message to some of those rural counties that, like so many rural counties across America, feel like Donald Trump is a lot more interested in their best interest than Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party that you represent?
Yeah, the good thing, Joe, is that we have 3 months to talk to those folks still. And, the way I campaign and the way we work, we sprint hard across all 7 counties of this district, and I want to represent all 7 counties in Congress. And, we're just going to take every day and try and win every single day, talking to people about the issues that matter to them, because that's how we're going to, win this thing in November, and that's why we feel so good right now.
So, Danny, there's a question about Nancy Pelosi and whether you would support her as Speaker. Some people had said that you had bungled the question the second time it was asked. It seems like you clarified it, but just so we have it on the record, if you become Ohio 12's congressman, when they go around at the beginning of the next session, will you vote for Nancy Pelosi to be your Speaker of the House?
No, I won't. And we really need new leadership, because what we've seen in Washington, and I think this was demonstrated last night, is that the same old politics aren't working. The desire to fight things out in a partisan nature instead of being pragmatic and finding solutions isn't getting the job done for working families. And I think that's why we're having so much success here, and why we're convincing so many people to, support our new version of leadership, is because people recognize that we need to have change in Washington. And they recognize that I'm someone who wants to get the job done for their family.
And so, Danny, I've known Nancy for a long time, and I like her personally, but there aren't a lot of people in Middle America. There aren't a lot of people from Youngstown, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio, that believe that Democrats have leaders that represent their interests. There's a massive cultural disconnect. Who's the type of speaker for the Democratic Party that you would like to see in there for the Democrats that would better represent rural counties across your district?
Honest to God, Joe, I don't have anyone in mind. I'd have to see who's running. I just want to be a part of the conversation, because I know when I'm out talking to families, whether it's on their doorstep, in their coffee shops, in their homes, they're worried about where we're headed as a country. They're worried about folks like my opponent, who wants to cut Social Security and Medicare and raise the retirement age. serious issues that families are facing. And people just don't ask me about the inside game in Washington because it's not what keeps people up at night. It's kitchen table issues.
Hey, Danny, it's Willie Geist in New York. I'm sure you saw the President of the United States declaring victory after he came out and endorsed Balderson. He says last night it was because that he pushed him over the top here if this result does in fact hold. Republicans, as you know, sent in the big guns. President Trump showed up there, the Vice President of the United States, among many others. Are you disappointed that more national Democrats didn't come in and support you that maybe would have given you that advantage to win here?
No, not at all. We've had grassroots support from the beginning, and what's more important to me is having folks in Licking County and Delaware County and Muskingum County, Marion County, everywhere in between who are fighting for me and who have my back because they know that I'll fight for them in Washington.
Right.
And I think that all these people coming in, they fly in for a couple hours, they give a speech at some fancy dinner, then they leave our community. They're not walking on our streets. They're not dealing with the public health crisis that we have with addiction. Their kids don't go to our schools. And I think having a true grassroots campaign is what's important. And that's what we're focused on, is making sure that we have conversations. And that's what we're going to do for the next 90 days.
Right.
And we're going to be sprinting.
Do you think, Danny, the president pushed Balderson over the top here?
No, I don't think he knows what he's talking about in that regard. Because when I'm out talking to folks, I ask them what they're worried about. And they say, we're worried about health care. We're worried about Social Security. We're worried about having economic opportunity. Folks aren't worried about people showing up for a couple hours and then leaving. I think that, we're in a race that's too close to call. The gap is 1,700 votes with 8,000 to be counted. And we're sprinting today. We'll be out talking to voters throughout the day. We'll be doing that tomorrow, and we'll be continuing through November, and we might take a break on some Saturdays to watch some football, but we'll be talking to people.
All right, Danny O'Connor, candidate for Congress in Ohio's 12th district, a race that is too close to call this morning. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.